Welcome. I'm Mark Lawson, president of the ECS Publishing Group, and we are so pleased to be joined today by Karen Marrolli, and we're going to talk about her new piece called Warrior. Karen, this is such an interesting piece. Talk about how it came about.
It came about in a little bit of a roundabout way. It was a collaboration with Aaron Howe, who is the director of the Zia Singers in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he actually was putting together a program in honor of the 100-year anniversary of women's right to vote. So the whole program was sort of based around women's contributions and the strength of women, the resilience of women, and all of that sort of thing. And what he was really looking for was sort of a counter to some texts that were written by pioneer women. And he thought, well, gee, I would really like to have kind of a Native American feel or perspective. Is there a piece like that you know, Karen? And I said, well, no. And then, we started looking at maybe writing something like that, but I cannot obviously write from that perspective at all. So it sort of evolved over the course of us doing it, or devolved, depending on how you're looking at it, I guess, but into me writing a text myself from my own kind of perspective, but that it had sort of a little bit of a desert flavor or a Native American flavor in the music that hopefully would kind of emotionally call that experience, I guess, to mind for the listeners.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think when you see the title, Warrior, you can take that so many different ways. The title doesn't really tell you something. It's intriguing in a way, but it's like, well, okay, what kind of warrior? And it's a little ways into the text before you actually find out what it's about. I think it was very interesting. What inspired you on this text, or what did you think about when you were? And you might even talk about the text just a little bit.
Sure. So partially, I was inspired by my own experiences, obviously, as a woman, and I think a lot of women that have followed paths that are not necessarily traditional. In that we've come so far, in that we have a lot of women now, Abby Tinas and Jocelyn Hagen, and these composers that are really doing great work now. But this is still sort of a relatively newish, I think, phenomenon based on what some of my older singers, some of them who were composers, have composed all their lives. I have one former composition student. I was kind of guiding her through writing a requiem for the earth. And she is now in her 70s. And she is just so inspired by the fact that she's seeing me and other younger women who are getting published, because she says that was not an avenue that was open to us at all. So we have that. So we're kind of as composers kind of working outside of our normal realm. I'm a conductor, and that comes with its own set of experiences that are different if you're female rather than if you're male. And I think just anyone who either female or just anyone who kind of is working in a realm that is not necessarily expected. There are certain things that the world will try to put on you, I guess, to try to make them feel more comfortable with who you are and where you are, what kind of space you're occupying. So there's that, but then there's also kind of the negative tape that any of us can relate to, that kind of have in our head. And how we fight those thoughts into making sure that we stay grounded and sure of ourselves on our own road. So, in the text, when it starts, it talks about drums, which kind of bring to mind issues of some kind of battle, and it being evening and that kind of a thing. And that's the time when those thoughts tend to come to us, or when we tend to wrestle with things and things maybe feel not right, or you might feel unsure. But by the end of the piece, we see that the definition of a warrior, in part, in this text, is someone who can create their own morning, no matter what it is that happens to them in life, that you aren't told by someone else who you are. You know who you are, even if you have moments of doubt or things that take you down, and you get back up and rise to create the morning is the last line in the piece. Yeah.
you live in New Mexico, and of course, you mentioned that this has a kind of a Native American feel to it. I know that you've spent a lot of time looking at that kind of music, and then a lot of things have influenced you. Talk about how you came to this particular musical expression, and maybe some things that influenced you there.
I've been in New Mexico off and on, mostly on now for about 10, 11 years. I took a little detour into Alabama for a few years and then ended up coming back to New Mexico. So I've been at Santa Fe, I've been in Albuquerque. I've spent a lot of time traveling around and taking photographs and kind of examining the spirit of the land here, especially. Anyone will tell you if you spend some time in the desert, speaking of resilience, the land really reflects that idea of just weathering the elements. And I've written a lot about that in a lot of different contexts and also in texts about how the land can teach us about enduring storms and becoming just something beautiful that may be unusual looking. The landscape is very unusual. But so being out here, you really, that gets into your bones, I think, and into your blood. And there's also really interwoven, you cannot really escape it, is the sense of the Native Americanness of this land, and the spirit of, our Navajo brothers and sisters really respect the land. They see it, as being spiritual. And they have a respect for creation, and it infects sort of everything that they do. So all of those things sort of, you can't take from them because it's not necessarily your culture and it's not right to do that, but they sort of take you, and it kind of comes out just in your pores and everything it is that you do.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, it's a great piece, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the catalog because it's so unique. So I hope that those of you listening will take a chance to take a look at it, and maybe it'll be something that you would be very interested in doing yourself. So thank you, Karen, for joining us, and we wish you the very best of luck in the days ahead.
Thank you so much for having me.